Okay, so important thing that I haven't seen a lot of videos around about is how to dress for commuting as the temperatures go down. As fall and winter comes along, the cyclist community ends up getting lighter and lighter most years. And that's because, cold is not really as nice to be biking in, and wind chill is really important to deal with on a bicycle, essentially. You're having to fight colder temperatures than what most people are dealing with because you're riding in speed and getting a lot more wind at whatever temperature is actually outside. And so I'm just going to go through what I wear for different temperature ranges, and these things change at time of season because of as you roll from summer into fall, I'm a lot more sensitive to cold than when I'm rolling into spring from winter. Same outfit in late fall for a particular temperature would feel too warm for spring at that same temperature after having endured winter all winter long. And I've said this in a video before, but it's important to reiterate. You need to think about temperature changes that happen in winter in like 10-ish degree ranges, where the same way that 80 degrees feels warm, 90 degrees feels pretty hot, 100 degrees just feels melting, and 110 feels like you're on the surface of the sun. It's the same kind of thing as you go down in temperature in winter. It's not just, well, it's 30 degrees now and everything under this is cold. Every 10-degree drop down from there, is a whole different category of worse that you have to find a way to deal with. Not to say that you can't, it's just you have to actually react to it. You can't just go out on the day. The day prior was 30 degrees when you left the house, and the next day, and today is going to be 20 degrees when you leave the house. You can't just wear the same stuff. Or at least, if you were just comfortable on the 30-degree day, you will be cold on the 20. Okay, so what I wear most of the time of the year during warmer weather is, for my commute in, is a pair of nylon travel pants that work for office wear for me. These are Columbia travel pants that I've done a review of before. See if I can get the brand, the model name. That's just Columbia. But they have a lot of give, and they have elastic in the material, so they stretch just a little bit, which is nice for cyclists. And this temperature setup is for low 60s to upper 50s, with, of course, variation depending on what works for you. And so what I'll do with these is, pretty much all year long, I'll roll up the pant leg on these, like this, to be able to keep the chain off my pant leg, and roll in with this, and this will be most days. If I'm going a longer distance for a commute in, or I want to be sportier, I'll wear my bike shorts. And depending on if it starts getting chilly enough in that temperature range, especially once you go below 60, I'll break out like leg warmers or something, because pretty much universally, if it's just a little bit too cold to be wearing just the shorts on the way in, you're going to be needing to be just in the shorts on the way home. It's going to be warmer pretty much everywhere. And for the top, what I'll wear most of the time is, because, as I just said, warmer temperatures, I'll wear a jersey, and I'll wear a base layer underneath that I can wear on the way to work, and then I don't have to wear it on the way home. If your jersey has a little bit more of an insulating capability, or you don't mind your torso getting chilly as much, you can also wear something like these Ibex arm warmers. These are also Ibex. They work well, and I've liked them, and they keep you warm when it's wet out as well. And you can wear something like these along with the jersey if space is at a premium, or if you don't mind your torso being a little bit chillier. And so that's a personal preference, personal taste kind of thing. And then, of course, cycling gloves. Not everybody wears them, but they help protect your hands in any kind of slip, spill, or fall. And so I'd recommend them year-round for everybody, until you start having multiple layers of gloves on, in which case they're going to take the brunt anyway. As you start getting more towards the mid-50s range of this temperature range, I personally, like once I'm below 60, want to start wearing these underneath these gloves. I'm a wuss for cold, so that's my reasoning for that. And if it gets chilly enough, and I'm just doing the work pants, I'll have like long wool socks or something that I wear for my calves to keep it a little bit warmer. But that's pretty much that temperature range. And next, mid-50s to upper 40s. Okay, and so here is the second set of clothes for the 55 to 45 degree temperature range now. And as applicable, if the 55 to 65 degree range stuff continues working for you down to this temperature, by all means, keep wearing it. And so, from the base up, some kind of warm sock that you like to wear. And especially at this range, I'll tuck the sock over the outside of the pant so that the pants are keeping me insulated all the way down. And if you need a second pair of socks, what I'll often do is, if I'm wearing long johns underneath, which also start coming into play at this temperature range, I'll put the socks over the outside of the long johns, and then the second layer of socks will go over the outside of whatever pants I'm wearing. And that's how the bottom layer goes. And for the top, long sleeve baser, of course. And in conjunction with that, and this mix can change depending on your particular tastes or the temperature range, and also time of year, so your acclimation level. A windproof insulating vest of some sort, like this Patagonia Nano Puff, which I wear very frequently. It weighs nothing, and so I've greatly appreciated it. Or this REI Novara cycling jacket, front shell. I'm trying to remember if there's a particular name for this, but this has also been very good. I've had this for, I believe, 3 years now, and there's some pilling that you can see, but essentially the function of it is still quite good. It's wind-resistant front material and breathable on the back, and it helps with being very insulating. And essentially, you can do this, and then at this temperature range, as you get to more towards the 40s, you'll end up having this just be enough. And if you need to, then you can combine the two. And then the same gloves as I chose before, because from my experience, these continue to keep you warm into the mid-40s, which is surprising for me because they're very thin and just lightweight. They weigh nothing. And this is where a good balaclava beanie combo starts coming into play. The balaclava portion isn't quite as important at this temperature range, but it's nice to start having something on top of your head. And it's better to have all this down and to just have to move it around or something, rather than to just take a little beanie and to go, you know, it's really cold, my ears, or my neck, or my throat. And so that's that for that temperature range. And on to the next. Okay, so for the 45 to 35 degree temperature range, we start getting into a bit colder temperatures. And that's where the neoprene tights come out. And these are neoprene windproof material on the front, which is very nice, and breathable material on the back, which is good when you need it and not great when it gets colder and you don't. They have zipping on the bottoms, so it helps cinch everything up and makes it easier to get in and out of. And of course, as always, warm socks underneath these. And then over the outside of these, we'll go long johns or work pants. Generally, the combination of those two is enough for this temperature range. And also, I didn't note this before, but these long johns actually go up to mid-chest on me, which they look silly, but it's nice and comfortable and helps keep everything in that area warmer than it would be otherwise, which, you know, as cyclists, shirts right up and pants right down and all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, as before, base layer on top. At this temperature range, this REI Novara jacket with the Patagonia vest over the top. And generally, for most of this range, especially once you're used to the temperature, early on in the season, you might not feel comfortable doing this, and I know I didn't this year. But as the season goes on, the combination of these two, for me at least, work. For you, that might be too warm or too cold, and so to correspond with that, oh, and of course, as I said previously, over everything, go the second layer of socks and under your shoes. And if cold feet are a problem, switch from cycling shoes to something, either cycling boots or just normal boots. It does make a significant difference. Or normal heavier shoes that are more resistant to temperatures. But as I was saying before, if the temperature range is still too chilly for you to get by with just these two for your top, a nice shell like this REI Novara. Let's see if I can see what type of jacket this is. I believe this is the Stratus, which is a serious rain jacket, as you can hear from the sound of material. It's essentially a very durable, hard shell that, in combination with these layers, make it into a nice winter coat. Except you have ventilation, which is great. And you have a nice little butt cover, which is also great. And unfortunately the hood does not come with, but it's about an extra $25. And at this time of year you can get this jacket, if it's still at your REI, for like a third off or more. Because that's when I got it last year. And the hood, unfortunately, it's got this little brim, which I thought was going to be awesome at first, but this never works well, at least not in my experience. What I end up doing is folding it underneath, and the hood like that works great. So, and with this, essentially, like for me, and because you're going to see this jacket in the next temperature range, this jacket makes for a good amount of versatility and extra heat retention. At this temperature range, up until like mid-30s, especially later on in the season, this balaclava is still good, but I'll pull it up over my face a little bit, pull it up over my mouth and my face to help keep breathing warmer, but never over the nose, because if I do that, then the riding glasses, which I've neglected to mention before, I wear all year long, but especially when it's cold, because nice watery eyes from cold weather is terrible. But if you cover up your nose while wearing riding glasses, the moist hot air is just going to rise up into them and fog them up and make it quite difficult to see. I'm going to quick grab the other optional thing that you, depending on your personality and temperature willingness, might want to wear at this temperature range, which is the Cold Avenger mask. Now, it makes you look like somebody out of a post-apocalyptic video game, but this is really quite nice for breathing in colder temperatures. Essentially anything below 35, I don't go along without wearing this. Because, especially dry. Like if it's wet, you can sort of get away with it a little bit more. And what happens is in this chamber, the air intake and output slows down. And so the air inside of here consistently generally feels 20 to 30 degrees warmer than whatever the air outside is. And in addition to that, this neoprene surface material on the outside makes it so that I don't need any additional balaclavas than this for all temperature ranges below this that I've experienced. And then, as before, the windstopper gloves. And with these, I pair it up with the nameless REI extra large shell. which fits quite nicely over it. I can't type with these, but I don't need to. And it provides quite a bit of warmth over duration or a lot of wind. It still gets chilly, but at the 35-degree temperature range, you're still pretty good for quite a while. And especially if you're not just going fast, if you're going uphill or having to go slow, your body's going to produce enough heat in order to sort of help with that. And if you keep getting cold hands or feet is a problem, despite the boot suggestion before, additional suggestions I can make is make this area even warmer. Because essentially if your forearms and wrists are hot, well, not hot, but quite warm and quite well insulated, then all that much more warm air is going to flow down to your hands. I've personally experienced this, and it does make quite a bit of a difference in how well your hands deal with. And now, on to the next segment. And now, for 25 to 35. And I'm just going to skim over all the things I've been saying before, unless there's additional information that needs to be said. So, once I find them, I will aside socks, neoprene tights, second layer of tights, and then second layer of socks over those tights, or if your pants allow for wearing both pairs of tights and the pants, socks over the pants. And base layer, jacket, puff vest. This temperature range, you will very likely at least want this shell to help. And balaclava, cold Avenger mask, liner gloves, and shell gloves. And the new things that start coming into play at this temperature range, depending on your needs, and which you're going to see as definite suggestions on the next temperature range. I currently can get away with wearing just that shell and the insulating layers underneath in this particular range. I might have an urge to close up those vents on the jacket, but I can get away with it at the moment. But if you can't, which don't fault you, everybody has their own temperature ranges. I personally am a wuss for cold, so there's going to be people that go, oh, I can't believe you wear all this. But for the next range, for me, I'll wear something, a thin insulating layer like this random Prana jacket that I got from REI last summer that was on sale because it was a fall-winter item that was out of season. And this is quite comfortable just walking around town, and it's at like the 30s degrees range is good enough with just ordinary street clothes underneath. And so thrown over all those clothes underneath the shell layer, of course. This works great at keeping you extra warm if you need that extra bit. And it closes and opens with snaps, which makes controlling your insulation quite a bit easier. Because for some reason, everybody who makes winter cycling clothes or colder weather cycling clothes makes all the zipper pulls really, really tiny, which makes them impossible to find with big clunky ass gloves. If anybody's listening, maybe make a fix on that. Or else I'm just going to have to make some myself in some stupid carabiner combo kind of thing. And so you bundle up with this, and then you just start popping it open as you get too warm. And if you're too cold with those layers, and of course, glasses. And if you start needing to at this temperature range, a pair of ski goggles. At this temperature range, especially towards the lower limit of it, these start becoming nice because enough air starts getting around the outside of these that it starts making the eyes water, which makes visibility hard, which is really the big problem when you're riding a bicycle, especially in commuting urban areas. And this can also help with road grit flying up into your face and all that kind of stuff. These are very nice as snow when it's falling, which snow can get around these. And if you need, because of the temperature range or because of comfort, this is when you can start thinking about throwing in like a wind shell pant over the outside of everything. Or alternatively, you can lighten up on some of the lower layers earlier on, and instead you can get away with just wearing a wind pant. It's going to do a lot of insulating for you at lower clothing levels. And these are very bulky, they're not cycling specific, and so the trick that I use with these when I wear them, which is not very sophisticated, but works, is shoestring, tie it around here, go around, and I didn't line up the laces very well, but you can get the idea. And then at the bottom, just do a nice little shoelace tie. And then when you're done, it's very easy to get them off. And that helps keep these out of your chain. And the same kind of way, if you need them at this temperature range, which you might not, depending on distance and speeds that you're going and your cone comfort level, of course, and your shoes, overshoes or some kind of bike shoe covers or something like that. I personally wear SPD pedal shoes that look like sneakers, and so these overshoes, which are I think extra large, are the only things that can fit over them, which is a very obnoxious process to try to find. But hopefully you can find something easier. But this kind of thing helps a lot, and there are better models than these for lower temperature ranges that can work for you. If you Google ice bike, there's people that have really good suggestions for that kind of stuff, which I don't really have to deal with very much, so I wouldn't be as good of an expertise on that. And now for the lowest temperature ranges that I really have much applicability with or experience with in the area that I commute in, which is 25 to 15 or 10. Much below that, I think the information I've given you so far can sort of give you an idea of, okay, keep layering like this and find what you can that's going to have more neoprene and more windproof materials and such and such and such. And other than that, like, I haven't found really good equipment lists for really cold weather cycling that are specific items like this. The most interesting person I found who does cold weather cycling is the polar explorer Eric Larson, who did a fat bike tour in Antarctica. And there's a couple of articles of him talking about like the general like types of layers that he had, but nothing specific like this, which for somebody who's sort of geary oriented and wants to know the right thing to buy, is really something that would have been helpful for me to be able to read for him. That's why I'm going through every specific item like this. Oh, and speaking of which, these neoprene tights are from Performance. They're bibs, which the bib is actually a very good important part of this. It helps keep it covered up above the line where your base layer is going to be showing, and so it's quite actually a smart idea to have. And these were from Performance. I'm not sure if they make them anymore though. I think Castelli makes similar product. I've seen that in stores at least. So look around for that. It's a good buy. But in any case, flying through what we've talked about before. Socks. Neoprene tip bibs. Long johns. Pants. And or wind pants. Or snow pants. Or whatever variation or version of that you have and or would like to use. I have those wind pants because they're part of a rain suit that I got very graciously from my father-in-law as a gift they gave to me and my wife. 2 sets of rain suits. And then jacket. Insulating vest. Another layer of insulation. Shell. Liner glove. The second liner glove. Shell gloves. And of course base layer somewhere under there. Second layer of thicker socks. Balaclava. Cold Avenger face mask. At this temperature, this really starts becoming nice. Because deep breathing cold, dry air on a bike is not really awesome. At this temperature range, I would definitely recommend goggles. Your choice of, these are the cycling shoes I was talking about, or boots. And as temperatures, weather conditions, rain, and your needs and shoe choices require, overshoe shoe covers. And of course the strings to hold down your wind pants, unless you've got something that stays out of your chain anyway. And below that, I don't have a lot of personal experience. I biked to school in Wisconsin growing up, and so, but that was a lot shorter range and a lot slower speed than what I do when I go to work now. When I go to work, it's mostly downhill for 5 miles, and so you get a lot of wind and you get a lot of exposure, and it's a lot of traffic because I live in the heart of a city. And it's a very different animal. If you're going slower speeds, you get a lot more, or a flat terrain, you have a lot more leeway because you're going to be pumping out more heat relative to the amount of wind you're producing. I'm a lot warmer when I'm coming home because it's all uphill. And that's when the opening up my insulation, which now we've talked through all that, when you're starting to start feeling warm, the moment you start feeling like you're pumping out heat and like you might start sweating, is when you start unzipping layers. And you're going to feel a wash of cold air, and you're going to probably equalize that before too long, because if you started feeling warm, you're going to continue to feel more warm. And that's when you just keep trying to open up your layers. There's definitely been times when I've been coming home and I'm almost home, and I've got all my layers unzipped all the way down to the full zip of this Patagonia Merino 1 base layer. Like this unzipped all the way down to mid-chest, because I'm just trying to off-gas a bunch of extra heat. And that's a good thing at that time. It was a good thing for me to wear on those days, for me to wear the amount of insulation I was wearing when I left work, because for me, I don't like starting off cold. A lot of people recommend that, but it's just not awesome for me. If I was going longer distances and I needed to make sure that I was on a cold weather tour or something and I needed to make sure I was okay, then yeah, you have to start off colder because you're going to be pumping all day, and if you start getting cold, you're going to be sweaty all day. Start getting sweaty, you're going to be sweaty all day, and you're going to be really cold when you stop. I stop at home, so getting a little bit of sweat isn't as big of a deal. That's why this listing that I talk about is more for commuting, because you're probably going to be a little bit warm if you're going non-stop. But start and stop, you get chilly at stoplights. And hopefully that's helpful for people that have been thinking about winter cycling for commuting and have just been a little skittish about it, because there's not a huge amount of information out there, and it's a barrier for people to get into. And of course, through all these temperature ranges, helmet, but that's over there, and I'll grab it quick. This is my helmet that I keep a headlamp on, actually, so that you can, all year long, know that you've got the light source if you need it. And that's why we're with every combination. And in the winter, actually, especially like this spring, because when you're riding to work in this morning, low sun in the sky, it's nice to be able to block off a little bit that's coming towards your face. But in any case, if you have any questions or concerns or things that you want me to try to clarify, just let me know, and thanks for your time. One last part that I forgot to mention, which is, as these temperature ranges start dropping, especially if your hands get cold, bar mitts, which are attachments that go into your handlebars that essentially are big blocks, that big neoprene sleeves that your hands fit into that help keep the wind off your hands, are one option. And the second one is getting mittens that fit over your liner gloves. I haven't tried both these options yet, and so that's why they slipped my mind. But as these temperatures continue to drop, and even at some of these ranges that I was talking about already, they're going to become pretty essential for you. So that's the last addendum. Thanks. Bye.